Welcome to Authentic Living with Roxanne, a place where we have conscious conversations about things that really matter in our lives. And now, here's your host, Roxanne Derhaj.
Hi, Barb. How are you today?
Great, Roxanne. Thanks for having me here. This is going to be fun.
Well, thank you for coming on. So Barb Stuhlemmer, she works a lot with business, but I'm going to read a bit of her bio and then we're going to kind of jump right into things. We've got some exciting things to discuss. She works strategically to support small business owners and corporations under about $10 million. She uses a proprietary developmental process that guarantees growth for the owner wanting to make a bigger impact in the world. That sounds lovely. So it sounds like it's automatically it sounds like it's about connection so that people can grow.
Yeah, and the connection's not just themselves, but the connection that they have with everything and everyone around them. So that, the world is really it may be an overstatement for some people, but their connection and how they show up in the world is really the big part.
So Barb, I always am interested in how, I know you do a lot of things. I know you teach and you've been doing this kind of business for quite a while. So tell me kind of what got you, did you go to business school? Kind of what got you involved with wanting to help business owners grow their business and their vision?
Yeah, crazy. It was one of those long kind of meandering growth processes. I've been in technology for over 25 years and in medical device and software development. And when one of the companies, many of my companies that I've been in have been, not that I own them, but in technology, they change, they get sold, they close, they move. And I'd just been through a lot of different jobs. So the last time I got downsized when a company was closing down because they didn't change with the internet came out with IP technology, I decided that I would start my own business. So I started a technical writing business for software development and medical device manufacturing companies. And in the first 6 years of that company, I realized that I had other people doing the technical writing, even though I'm an expert at it, and I just kind of managed the business. And I spent 6 years and about $60,000+ in development for myself, understanding how to run the business, and then realized I've been in small business almost my entire life, either as a family member or as a friend who moved in and did employment. And all I wanted to do was help my clients grow their business, but I couldn't do that. Like I said, let me help you make money with your technical writing. And it didn't make a lot of sense for them. So they'd hire me for technical writing, which I didn't really love, but I was really good at. And the business component, which I was like being able to understand the strategy that it was needed to make money at things and to make it easier for people was so easy for me. And I just kind of made this transition about 9 years ago now, and actually almost 10 years ago now. And
Wow.
And when I made this transition into becoming a business strategist, it's just been fun. 10 years, I've had the same struggles as everyone as we go through business, but I love what I do. So it became really easy because I get to connect. I have relationships with my clients. I get to teach. I get to write. I get to speak. I get to do all the things that I love the best. And it all allows me to spend time with my family and friends, which is my ultimate goal in life.
So kind of what it sounds like is like technical writing, right? Not the sexiest, I would think, but you kind of fell into kind of your own path and finding your way. It sounds like it was like a natural process for you. And then you would always help your people, even though you were doing technical writing. And then you looked at both streams and said, which one do I feel like I'm playing at? And which one do I feel like I'm working at? And it sounds like, helping people and connection was something that obviously came quite naturally to you because that's what you enjoyed. And then, you went on to do that and create a business. What a nice way to be able to make a living when you like it so much.
It certainly makes working a lot easier when you love what you do. Yeah.
Sure, for sure. We all have to work. And I know with
Yep.
myself, it's, you always make a lot of mistakes along the way as you're building. But the thing that becomes really, really important is to really have that vision. So you and I were chit-chatting just before we got online. And one of the things that you said is that a lot of people have said to you, and it's interesting, right? I talk about being connected to yourself as a leader, and you said that the one thing that people asked you often is, yeah, I'm all good with the business end, but I've got a lot going on with my personal life. I'm just wondering if one affects the other. So I just want you to share kind of how do you approach something like that, or how do you deal with that? You're the business strategic or strategist, and now people are bringing in a lot of personal things. So,
well, it's funny because I find myself often saying, of course, your personal life affects your business, because they're not mutually exclusive. You can't have something challenging going on in your personal life not affect your business, and you can't have things challenging that stressful in your business life not affecting your personal life. So when they talk about work-life balance, I think it's a little bit of a balance. Kind of implies that you get equal of both, and that you if you had a scale, that they would sit equally. But really what it is it's kind of an ebb and flow of the things that you're doing in your life and your business, and they go back and forth. And if they get stuck in one way or the other, that's when it's painful. But if they're ebbing and flowing, you're working and you have a project, and the project is going to take you 3 weeks, and in those 3 weeks you're going to be putting in 60-hour weeks or 70-hour weeks, and after that you have vacation going on, and you're able to do this, and you do it with ease, and it works easily for you, that's okay. But if you are like, sometimes I meet people who've been in business for 10, 15 years, and they're still working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. And they think that this is the norm. This is the way that it's supposed to be. And they can't figure out, I can't work anymore. There's no way to grow my business. And I don't have any time for myself and my husband and my kids or my family or my wife or whatever it is. And this whole connection to everything that happens outside their business is only connected through their business. And is when I feel that balance is really out of whack with life. Yeah.
So it's really kind of trying to figure that out relatively early. I says, as an entrepreneur, I know when you're starting, it's like, everything is overwhelming, right? Like, I mean, this new system and what's social media stream should I be on, and how many tweets should I be doing, and should I get on Instagram, and should I be on IG? It all starts. Well, I often say it's like going against incoming traffic at the 401, right? Like, I mean, you're overwhelmed, and there's a certain part of that. That's where you kind of start to say to people, okay, well, calm down. Like, what do you want to do? How do you make money? How do you want to make money from this? But a lot of it, what I learned early, and you could probably speak of so much more, became about systems, right? So there's beginning things that you need to put in place, which I was guilty like the rest of them before I kind of got the right direction. So can you talk a little bit to kind of like what people kind of, when they're starting a new business, to when they're kind of, like you said, 10, 15 years in, and you're still working 60 hours a week. I'm thinking
it's rare, but it happens. I mean, and it depends on the business too, and the person. Some people love that. I mean, that might be their balance, which is fine. But if you're complaining about it, it's not. So there's a couple of things that you said there. One was you were talking about, the overwhelm when you first start the business, and I always liken this to raising my children, and they come to me and they'll say, you should try this. I tried it and I can't do it. So you tried it once and you can't do it. I can't do it. And I said, what? You are not an expert? You've done it once and you're not an expert? I don't understand. Truly, you should just be able to jump in and do this once and be an expert. And so everything that you do in a business outside of your core competency, which most people who start a small business, come in with a core competency. I I have this. So when I started my technical writing business, I was a technical writer. I have a background. I was connected to the industry. I had lots of people that could get me business. I knew how the industry worked. I knew where my clients went. So I had a lot of understanding of how to connect with the people and how to do the work. But I didn't know all the other components that went on in the back of a business. I mean, that was the piece that I had to learn. And I wasn't good at it when I first started. Everything I stumbled, I did it wrong. I fixed it, I learned. And even if people tell you, I mean, I went through training to start the business. I went through training and I still stumbled and fell as I went through it, because you just, like you said, there's so many things that you're learning. You're trying to take it on. You're trying to learn when you're driving a car, you're trying to learn all the things. Some things are not natural to you. And until they become a habit, you get used to doing them, you can't do them without actually having to put full focus on something that will eventually be something easy for you. So you're distracted by all the small things that have to get done, the order that they have to be done in, how you can manage them, and systems. So as a technical writer, clearly I'm very good at systems. I mean, to be able to describe how to do something like build a piece of technology that they're going to use in a hospital for a heart ablation, you want to be able to ensure that whatever you write down, someone does appropriately so that the machine doesn't end up killing someone. So, systems are something that I'm really good at. And it's probably one of my key core competencies is systems. People accuse me of being maybe a little over systematic. But in my own business, like you said, it was difficult when you started a business to get the systems and have them in place. I'm the same. I can do systems for everybody else, but systems for myself, I thought I was doing a pretty good job getting some procedures in place when I first started. But as the business started growing and changing, getting those systems and managing those systems and making sure that I had them in place when I hire people or I have people working for me or whatever that is, it's an ongoing challenge in business. So you're just constantly looking at these things. So it's fun and it's interesting, and you are not an expert when you start something. Every time you take on something new, you have to learn it, become an expert at it, or hire an expert to do it and become an expert at managing great people.
Barb, I have to pause for 1 sec, okay? So in case you wonder where we went, so I kind of had a technical difficulty, and Barb is so gracious. She stayed with me, so bear with us. It's all on my end. I wish, it was one of those Roxy moments. So Barb, let's jump right back in again to, it's so interesting though, because me, I'm kind of, about 3-4 years in, and I brought an expertise. Like you said earlier, everybody brings their skill and there's everything else to learn. Right. And, even though, like you said, you're so, you'd have to be methodical because of the kind of medical writing you were doing. You in turn even had to learn the systems. So do you find that when people come in, they have a sense of what they think should be happening, or are they kind of overwhelmed and they're just saying, okay, Barb, I give up. Help me.
No, actually, I think the first thing that you said is more true. People have a sense of what they have to do. I think it's because we don't know what we don't know. And we don't know what's missing. We just know that something's not working, and we don't know what's missing. So I know, a simple one, family businesses oftentimes have a lot of challenges around trying to make things work. And one of the things that they are typically missing is an ability to have great communications. And that usually comes from having some very specific systems around how to have meetings. Now, in a standard corporate where no one's related to each other, in a standard corporation, I should say, where no one's related to each other, when you go into a meeting, there are systems that you would have in place that people expect. Like you would send an agenda ahead of time, ask people if they want to put anything on the agenda. But because in family businesses, and it's not that... it's not for lack of understanding. It's just that they're always talking with each other. They're connected to potentially 24 hours a day. A lot of husband and wife businesses that I've worked with. And they forget that, the conversations that they have to have in these special meetings have to come you have to be ready for them. You have to be prepared to understand what the point of view is of the other person or other people in the meeting. Do your due diligence on any kind of information, particularly if you're bringing in new ideas. And so this simple idea of having to set up a meeting and host it a specific way where you can't just sit down like at dinner time and everybody just talks and no one hears each other. You can't do that in a business. So some of the simple things are some of the things that only an outsider can see for you oftentimes.
That would be fascinating, right? Because one of my specialties as a psychotherapist is families, right? So communication is so interesting, right? Like that's one of the things we really have to hammer down. Because you're right, because you could switch from emotional mode to running a family to now we're in business mode, but they're flipping probably back and forth, I would think, all the time.
It's a huge challenge in family businesses. So this is a whole conversation on its own, family business. And, the dynamics between two people are different when you add a third person. And if they're all related, then the dynamics between the three in family is different than the dynamics they have when they're working with each other. And those three people, when they have outsiders as a part of what's going on. And that's what happens in business. You're not just three people who are related to each other at family dinner. You're three people who are related, just happen to be related to each other, but you're in a business and you have to act inside the business. And people they don't. We're human. We can't help ourselves. At points, we act human, and that's what happens.
So with your kind of strategic lens, you're kind of looking at where they're at, what they're trying to achieve. You're also trying to get, obviously, like you said, you want that internal landscape to kind of match what the business is about. So with myself, I obviously started training and speaking business, but I'm a psychotherapist. Well, I speak all the time as a psychotherapist, but it's a completely new field to be able to step into. I'm taking my expertise, or did 4 years ago, to be able to start something new. But again, the social media or all the different pockets, like how to set up systems to be able to work with an assistant. When I was in corporate, I had someone that helped me. They kind of knew what to do. But when you're hiring somebody, how do you work with them? How do you tell them what you need? How do you kind of, get them to understand your vision, all those things. So I can see how working with someone would help them kind of back away from the situation, look at it a little bit more objectively, and then be able to think about what steps is it that I need to take to be able to be successful in business.
Yeah, leadership. Many people who go into business for themselves have been in some kind of management or team lead or something like that inside someone else's business. But when all the chips are yours to earn or lose, the leadership becomes very different. And sometimes people fall into it's mine, do it my way. And then you don't end up with a team that actually wants to work with you and help you build a business. They're just there to collect their paycheck. And when it doesn't fit them anymore or suit them anymore, they're out the door. So there is some really interesting dynamics around building a team inside a small business, hiring the right people, figuring out how to teach them, particularly when you're the only person in your business. How do you teach people how to do what you do? And that's one of the biggest things around small business, particularly if you're under, about 5 people. When you're under 5 people, you as the business owner still host or hold most of the hats inside your business, and being able to let them go. And I can tell you probably more than 50% of the people that I work with at some point in time said, I just can't pass it on. I can do it better and faster than if I got someone else to do it. I might as well just do it. It's like, fine, you keep doing it. Don't expect to grow. Because as long as you're doing this, you cannot grow your business. It's like, oh, okay. So the kind of realizations is like, I can do this faster, but I can't grow my business as long as I continue to do this.
I remember hearing you speak about 2 years, was it about 2 years ago, the first time we met, was at Hub Inc. And you said, everything you do is a system. I'm like, are you kidding? She says, I remember you talking about that. Pull out a piece of paper and think of something that you do, and then write down every step, and then you start mapping those things out, because eventually you'll need to pass it on. I remember that from that talk 2 years ago.
Wow.
I'm like, she's right.
Yeah.
You know, she is so very right, because you're consistently, like, I think of when I started to do my podcast, right? So, you know, all the steps that I had to do before I could get to the point where I could, taping it is one part of it, but there's so many other parts.
Yeah.
So I would create, there would be probably 20 things to do to be able to actually put out the podcast, but, then passing it on to someone else, which I just recently did. It became something that, okay, now I have to know exactly how to be able to say to this person. And it takes a while, but then now it's something that's, now I don't get involved in it anymore. I tried to get involved with the other day and I messed up a couple things. So now I just stay completely out, right?
Yes. Yeah. You want to keep your eye on it, because you want to continue to know that what is happening is working well in your business. So are people enjoying it? Are they doing a good job? Is the outcome still still to the same level of desired outcome that you wanted? But yeah, once you get someone who's good at it, give them the autonomy to make the process better, to ask you how they can change it. Like, maybe they've got a great idea. So, if we did this, I think you can make more money on it. It's like when you get people inside your business that say, I can help you make more money in your business, it's like, you're worth more money to me. It's someone, when I was, I went through some training on how to purchase real estate and to be an investor. And one of the things that they said is, if you borrow money, some people are really afraid to borrow money. If you borrow money, as long as what you're investing in makes you more money than you borrowed, so that you can pay it back and make money on it, so it's profitable, then it can be a great investment. Well, it's the same for your people that work for you. If you have someone who works really well for you and they're making you money, it doesn't matter if you pay them more than minimum wage or more than the average person is being paid. As long as you're making money from them, or they're freeing you up so that you can make more money and you're making a lot more money, they're worth their weight in gold. So it becomes a real a dance on figuring out what's best for your business, what's best for you, what's best for your employee or your contractor.
And I think that would be a big conversation, because I think a lot of people like to hold on to things because they think, I know what this means to my business. But, even me just recently working with someone now, you're so right, because she'll say to me, why don't you consider this? Like, I like this, but have you thought about adding this? And I had not thought about it. I thought, oh, this is just the way, this is what I want to put out. And I thought about it. And this particular, strategy we started to use about 2 months ago, and it's made a difference. So it's interesting, right? Like you said, someone that's, she's worked with people that train and speak like myself, and she does do that kind of work. But it was just something very, very simple that once I let go of it and I started to look at it, I went, all right, this could be very valuable. And so I think you're right, having someone to guide you along to say, consider this, consider that, to give you some ideas, right? Two minds are always, better than one.
Yeah, that's a great way to bounce some of your own ideas off of another person and get some feedback for yourself as well. Sometimes we think we have the greatest ideas. You were talking about being a great speaker but having to learn how to speak differently. So technical writing for, now over 25 years in technical writing didn't make me necessarily a great writer in any other genre of writing. So I had to learn how to be a better writer to be able to do marketing writing. And so I spent money on how to learn how to be a marketing writing, went to the experts and whatnot. And then I had to learn I wanted to write a book. So I went to an expert to learn how to write a book, which is very different again in the genre of books that I write. So I write nonfiction. So the nonfiction books are different writing than a fiction book. So if I wanted to write a fiction, I'd have to go and learn something about that too. And blogs, I write blogs and articles and stuff like that. Those are written very differently. And I used to work in medical research, and we had to write grants. So grant writing is very, very different than any of those.
Right.
So, you may be an expert in something, but just because you're a writer, just because you're a speaker, doesn't make you across the board great speaker. And so I think that falls for us. It's the same in any component inside our business. Just because we have an MBA and maybe you graduated top of your class doesn't mean that you're going to be great at running a business, because especially when it's your money on the line, because you think very, very differently when it's your baby versus, spending money on someone else's baby. It's really, it's fun. Again, fun, interesting. And
so the thing is to kind of look at the angle of, if you're not the expert in this, you have skills, right? Like obviously with, strategy around health and wellness and mental health and resilience, that's my expertise. But every time there was something new, whether it was, how do you kind of maximize on LinkedIn, or to be able to create a keynote speech. Well, again, it's one thing. I've done training and speaking for a lot of years in corporate, but it was somebody else's content. So how do you then step into that? Or how do you, what platform to use? So I think what I hear you saying is be a good student and recognize this is not my area of expertise. And if I need more information, where do I go to kind of get it?
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, getting into business for yourself means that you really have to be a lifelong learner. There's no opportunity at any point in owning your own business where you go, finally here, don't have to learn anything else. My business is just going to go like this for like the next 20 years, because like 2 years down the road, 1 year, 6 months, 6 years, whatever, something's going to change. And with our society and the way technology, the accelerated technology changes that we have, it changes the way we interact with each other, our social skills, the iGens that are now coming out, which is something new that I'm doing a lot of research on. And they don't interact the same way. They have different expectations, and yet people are afraid to hire them, and yet they'd be really great people to have in your business, but not understanding that. So you have to learn. You don't have an opportunity not to. You don't have that ability not to.
So what I'd like you to do is to, I know people probably are listening and they're wondering how they could reach out to you. I know you have a book, and I would love for you to talk a little bit about the book and tell people where they can get the book, because with all these pieces that are there's so much more we could talk about, but I know we have limited time today.
Right, cool. Well, the book is The Entrepreneur Awakening, Making the Move from Employee to Business Owner. It has been out for a while. You can get it on Amazon and Kindle, Kobo, and I think that's it. And so it's available online as an ebook, or you can purchase the hardcover if you want. And so for your listeners, I don't have a link, but I will give you a link, so it'll go up with the podcast then. But I'll give you a link for they can download a chapter of the book. So the chapter is the Think Big chapter, which is kind of where people start when they're building a business. Is like, I've got this really great idea, but I really want people to think differently about thinking big. And this is part of my proprietary system that helps me help my clients. And I had a program that I ran for a couple of years called the CEO Elite, and 100% of the people that went through the program met or exceeded their goals over a 2-year period. So the system works really well. I explained it a bit in the book, but the Think Big process is the start of this. And so I'll give all your listeners the opportunity to think big.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time on a holiday Monday, which I really appreciate it. So I'm sure everybody's gotten a lot out of this today. I know I've again, like I said, I saw Barb 2 years ago, and I learned even just about writing little things down that I do, and starting to put it in a Google Doc, because I could pass it on now to my assistant, and I would start to do that. So again, anyone thinking of starting a business, what you really have to think about is what is your lane of expertise, and what do you need to learn, and really start to think about investing your time effectively with the right people to get you where you want to go. If you're beginning, it's overwhelming, absolutely, but we all do this because we have a passion for something. Like Barb's passion was to help others. Mine is to make people healthy and well mentally so that they can lead better. So if you're needing more information on me, you can reach me at roxannederhodge.com. So thank you again, Barb, and everyone, thanks for listening. Take care.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Authentic Living with Roxanne, creating the space for positive, healthy change. Roxanne is a keynote speaker, psychotherapist, and coach. To work with Roxanne, visit roxannederhodge.com/blueprint. We'll see you next time on Authentic Living with Roxanne.